What's going on, guys? I've got here a 1984 Hobie 18 that I've replaced all of the standing rigging on, and I'm going to use this boat to show you the condition of the old versus the new rigging, go over some things that I've noticed while doing so, and talk about the process. So to begin on this boat, I had to drop the mast, and I did so by installing a pin at the bottom of the mast to limit its rotation. I then disconnected the forestay up here, and I walked the mast backwards, and I had a rope attached to the forestay with a helper that helped me gently lower it. Let's go ahead and move to the rear of the boat where we can look at the mast where the side shrouds and the forestay attaches to it. This is the old shackle, and you can see the old rigging here. The new rigging, I've noticed, has a slightly larger radius on this curve, and I think that would help the rigging be stronger. A tighter radius would put more stress on the steel cable. This is the original shackle. It's a Riley shackle. I've never heard of her, but I went ahead and replaced it with a new Harkin shackle. Put on seizing wire through the hole in the shackle to prevent it from unscrewing, and I wrapped it with the rigging tape here. The cable that runs down the front has a pulley on it for the halyard, the jib halyard. And because this is a furling jib, there's a rotating part of the rigging. I went ahead and replaced all of that. And I did note on the old rigging, there's a substantial amount of up and down play on this rotating piece. Looking at the new part, there is very little to no play up and down. So that is an indication to me that internally this has started to wear out. And you know, there's a little bit of corrosion on these crimps, nothing unusual. One of the big areas of wear that I saw in that front piece is the cover has just started to completely come off of the rigging. And I don't think that this is really needed for a structural strength aspect, but it's just an indication that the rigging is old. I actually have no idea how old the rigging on this boat is because I bought this boat used. The boat is a 1984, and I do suspect that many of these parts are original. So now we're looking at where the side shroud attaches. Some original parts here. Let's take a moment to look at the clevis pins. I cleaned this one up so we can get a better look at it. And there are actually gouges in the surface of it. A pretty extreme amount of wear. And I get mixed opinions about these pins. Some people say they last forever. Other people will tell you that they can and will shear when they're under a lot of stress. I went ahead and replaced all of them on mine. This is a turnbuckle. It installs in the pin and it provides a 90-degree angle. This turnbuckle, you can see, has started to come apart and the hole is wallowing out where the clevis pin goes. If we compare it to the new part, you can see the difference. It's starting to separate up the seam. I also chose to replace the anchor pin. Hobie has revised this part twice, and each time they revise it, they make the shoulder on the pin wider. And so I figured it would be a good idea to have the newest revision that's stronger. And you can see the physical difference here. This part is a lot more substantial in my opinion. I also replaced this part, and there are more hole options here, so more adjustment variability. We can take a look. I've got my new rigging here. This is the old. Not so bad. A little bit of discoloration in the part of the steel cabling that I can see. I also chose to rebuild the furler. I'll probably just replace it soon because during the rebuild process, there's a small screw that snapped off I wasn't able to replace. And we have our front forestay, the new, and this is the old. And again, if you look in the crack here where you can see the rubber, there's the gap. This is stainless steel rigging, so it does not rust, but I have noticed it will discolor. While we're at the front of the boat, I want to mention as well, these bolts were starting to get loose. They were walking themselves free. And so I replaced the nylock nuts here at the bottom, retorqued everything, and I chose to align everything so at a glance I can see if one of these is starting to get loose. I also replaced the diamond wires. Those are the wires on the mast. They apply tension to it and help increase its strength. They are adjustable. This is what you call a turnbuckle, I believe. I did note that the wires on mine, the original, which is what I have here, they were loose, even though there was not a lot of thread left. So I think that they had stretched. We'll take a look at the new rigging, which you can see I've got some tension on. And you can see there's plenty of thread available. I also replaced the through bolt for the mast that attaches the diamond wires, and also this piece for the mast rotation limiter. I did also notice that the new rigging that I purchased from Murray's, it's got a different construction than what was on my boat. This piece is shorter but thicker. Now let's talk about the diamond wires. They attach to the boat here, this tang. And I replaced the pin, of course, and I wrapped it with rigging tape. We'll move down the mast and we'll see that there is rigging tape on all of the pins. That's to avoid the sail chafing. And my diamond wires have these rollers that the jib can roll across. The original rigging had the rollers as well, but you can see these were starting to come apart. But yeah, that just about covers it for the standing rigging. I'll put together another video about the running rigging that I've also replaced. One other note, this pulley is made in England and it's actually in pretty good shape. This is part of the jib halyard. The new pulley is a Ronston, and I did note that while the diameter of the pulley is the same, the rotating part of the pulley protrudes out further than the old part. The original shackle that I have here seemed to be okay, but the threads were beginning to gall. So this pin is actually kind of difficult to unscrew and reattach. But yeah, let me know if you guys have any questions about standing rigging replacement, or if you have any advice, and thank you for watching. This part is not included with the standing rigging, but I decided to replace it as well. This is actually the bearing for the mast rotator. And if we take a careful look at it, you can see that the new part is actually much taller than the old part. That's because this wears out over time. And indeed, it was worn so much that this Phillips screw head was starting to wear into the bottom of the mast. So if you have a Hobie or really any boat with a rotating mast, you'll want to replace the bearing system.